Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we discuss the major astrology of December 2024. Yes, we are at the 12th month of the year already. And this is going to be a time to catch up with yourself, to catch up with who you really are now, to listen to your soul, and to go higher into those next level dreams that you're ready to take forward into 2025. So we will be covering the main astrology of the month, and let's get right to it here as December kicks off with a Sagittarius New Moon at 9 degrees of Sag. And this is a great start to your intentions for the month ahead. Sagittarius gets us moving forward out of the deep, intense emotional processing that Scorpio season brings us into. And I feel that December is going to be a month where we look at what stays and what goes, especially after the energies of eclipse season in September and October, and the overwhelm and intensity of November. So December is going to open up space. Where do you need to open up space in your life, in your energy, in your own path, so that you can continue to grow forward? And conversely, where are you recognizing you don't have energy anymore for certain priorities or endeavors? What is complete for you that you no longer want to invest in? As December gets moving, Mercury is in retrograde, which lasts for most of Sagittarius season, as Mercury retrograde starts November 25th and ends December 15th. So for the first half of December, Mercury retrograde is bringing your attention to what is no longer energetically speaking to you, what doesn't light up your soul, what is not in alignment, and to allow yourself to trust that information, to trust what you're feeling around that. This is also helpful for that Sagittarius New Moon, as you might find yourself cutting through things and being very honest with yourself around what is important to your next level advancement. Sagittarius wants you to expand your vision and go into new territory and new spaces that light you up, that fuel you, that get you excited about the road ahead, and also to remember to see everything you've been through as growth, as a learning opportunity, as a time to look for the wisdom and what you've been learning along the way so that you can take that forward and leave the rest behind. And the first half of December, since it is Mercury retrograde, is going to give you opportunities to reshuffle what you want to move towards, to reconfigure things in a way that perhaps surprise you, but also it's an acknowledgement of what you've learned this year, of how far you've come, of what you've been through, what you've mastered. And there's a sense here of strengthening the self, but I feel it coming from the soul. I feel that this energy of Mercury retrograde and Mars retrograde, which starts December 6th, at 6 degrees of Leo. Both these planets in retrograde are going to allow us to receive more guidance from our soul that is beyond what the mind or our sense of self would first understand. So there's this expansive opening here that allows you to call in more downloads and understandings around what's true for you. And I feel that that understanding arrives through the slowdown, through the sense of knowing that you don't have to rush forward and that any rushing might be wasted effort in December. And this is tricky during Sagittarius season because it is a fire sign. And Sag wants to dash ahead and get there and wants to find and discover the next big thing. But this energy is asking us to retract, to pull it in, to harness energies and sit with them, which can even be uncomfortable if you're feeling that gotta go, gotta get there, gotta move energy of Sagittarius. But with Mercury in retrograde and Mars in retrograde in Leo, all of this in the fire signs, we're learning how to temper and be more responsible with that fire energy. We're learning that it's okay to slow down the burn or to not automatically go, or only be focused on the future, which can happen with fire signs. Rather, this is the ability to powerfully hold the energy within yourself. This is a contained fire. This is the ability to sit with a part of yourself and be in the present moment with who you are now, and to allow that inspiration or motivation to still be present, but to not have it overwhelm you or pull you out of the gifts and sparks of right now, because there is a creative surge here that is coming up, and perhaps you're feeling that. This feels like a reconnection to a part of yourself that maybe you've been too busy or too distracted to sit with, and that there's an invitation here. Again, I'm feeling a very strong soul frequency, like your soul is directing you into a part of yourself to sit with it, to tame it, to hold it, to embrace it here in December, and to feel the warmth of that contained fire so that it can refuel you. And so for all the ways that we think of strong fire energy as movement and action and going for it, December is different. December is sitting with your creative spark and allowing yourself to really feel more of that energy in the present moment. So as this Mars stations retrograde on December 6th at 6 degrees of Leo, Mars is moving very slowly now. And Mars in Leo, as you perhaps heard me describe previously, is the lion who comes out of the cave, which is Cancer energy, to assess what's going on. And the Mars in Leo is ready for the hunt, to go for something, to follow his instincts. But this Mars retrograde in Leo is retracting that energy back into self and is moving very slowly. Now keep in mind, Mars retrogrades back into Cancer in January, specifically January 6th. Is when Mars retrograde re-enters Cancer. So for the month of December, a slow-moving retrograde Mars in Leo is returning to parts of himself that he needs to further integrate and hear. And this Mars retrograde is actually quite rogue. He is rogue this month because he only makes one aspect to Venus for the rest of the month. And I mean in regards to the main Ptolemaic aspects in astrology. He makes an opposition to Venus in Aquarius, December 12th and 13th. And after that, Mars retrograde in Leo is on his own. He is internal, reflective. He's sitting with his creative spirit and his higher self. He's listening. And there's an energy here of the fire brewing within that he is taming and learning to powerfully control. Now, Mars is going to have another opposition to Pluto in January. That happens January 3rd when Mars retrograde in Leo is at 1 degrees. So that's not a part of the December energy, but he's basically backtracking to that standoff, to that opposition with Pluto in Aquarius. And so there's a preparatory feeling here where this Mars in Leo retrograde is internal but unsettled. Unsettled because he's feeling that there are matters to direct his energy at. So he's learning to be more discerning. Now, at a personal level, Mars retrograde is a time for us to internalize the Mars expressions, to be more conscious of what we would normally put out, but instead we're sitting with. And so Mars is not only physical activity, assertion, standing up for yourself, how we face challenges, how we go for what we want to obtain our goals. Mars is the energy of anger, of our deep feelings, of what we are processing, and how we do so in a way that's healthy and satisfying. Mars retrograde is asking us to internalize our feelings and to notice how the energy is affecting our body consciousness. And this is a slow down period. So it's about slowing down in what you go for, what you chase after, what you want. It's a slowdown in your responses or reactions. It's allowing yourself to be an observer of what's coming up within you, of what you're responding to emotionally, energetically, physically, and to be aware of that creative urge to do something, whether that is to move ahead or to create something. So with this Mars retrograde, there are now delays. There's delays and what feel like setbacks. Energies are not resolved. You might feel like you are sitting in conflict or an unsettling feeling that doesn't go anywhere. Mars is strong in Leo, but he's not being guided to take action. Instead, he has to sit with himself and remain in his courage, but listen. Listen to his heart and listen to his personal will. So this is a Mars that needs to be more receptive. And that is a big energy here throughout December. Then on December 7th, Neptune stations direct at 27 degrees of Pisces, the same day that Venus enters Aquarius and is conjunct Pluto. So December 7th is significant for turnarounds and for a new message coming online that directly relates to where you need to go next. This feels like a significant understanding of a spiritual breakthrough. I'm feeling that really strongly here. Neptune station direct the same day that Venus enters Aquarius and is conjunct Pluto. There is some kind of breakthrough in the heart space and an understanding of what is for your best and highest spiritual path. And Neptune stationing direct is helping you to realign with that choice, that direction, and what's been speaking to you, what's been whispering to you now becomes louder. You could have greater certainty and clarity, something you've been sitting with. And keep in mind that Venus enters Aquarius and is conjunct Pluto just like she was back in February of this year, specifically February 16th. So there could be a breakthrough here in December around an issue, a matter, anything with Venus that now you understand more of what is your empowered direction forward. So again, that is December 7th. There is a turnaround, and there's a significant connection here to the higher path that your soul is directing you towards. Then December 12th and 13th is when that Mars retrograde in Leo is opposing Venus in Aquarius. And their opposition occurs at 6 degrees of Leo. They are both in fixed signs. Venus in Aquarius, but she's newly been empowered by Pluto. She's been initiated already by what she wants, what she requires, and she doesn't hold back, compromise, or second guess herself after that conjunction to Pluto for the second time this year. Whereas this Mars retrograde in Leo is actually a little weaker. So we have a standoff here between this Venus in Aquarius and Mars retrograde in Leo, and you could feel that you are pulled in two directions, that there are two sides of yourself here competing for something you want or need. And the stronger energy is in Aquarius as Venus moves forward. And then that Mars retrograde in Leo returns to reassess what he wants, what he's really doing with his energy, his life, his world, his spirit. And that is a Mars that then returns to understanding what's the bigger picture of it all. And then the breakthrough in understanding could arrive a few days later on December 15th. December 15th is when Mercury stations direct at 6 degrees of Sagittarius, the same day as the Gemini full moon at 24 degrees. Now, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and so here we have a day of powerful messages. That Gemini full moon at 24 degrees is illuminating something you're meant to know and understand, and Mercury is returning to 6 degrees of Sagittarius, trining that Mars. So this is where Mars in Leo has an answer, has an understanding of what he didn't see before. And this could be a day where communications pick up. You have ideas come through, greater clarity, a sense of this is what I want, this is what makes sense, this is what I'm choosing. So December 15th, the middle of the month, is a turning point in communications, projects, travel, transportation, all the typical Mercury energies. But there's also a highlight here that whatever you've been sitting with, especially the first half of December, you're going to potentially get the answers, the knowingness and the breakthroughs on what to say or how to perceive something in a way that you previously missed. So after December 15th, it could feel like you're starting to move ahead a little bit. Keep in mind that as Mercury stations direct, the energy comes to a standstill and then takes time to build momentum going forward. But with the assistance of the Gemini full moon on the same day, again, there is a spotlight being shown here around important information that you're meant to know the middle of the month. Then as we move through the final days of Sagittarius season, we have the annual conjunction between the Sun in Sagittarius with the Galactic Center at 27 degrees of Sagittarius. And this year, it is amplified with more trust in the unknown and an invitation to stay open, because we're going to have a square from Neptune in Pisces at 27 degrees. So this Neptune is squaring the galactic center and the Sun in Sagittarius. This is an opening to the answers that haven't arrived, to stay open to the fact that we never know it all. And so can you allow yourself more expansive space to receive those downloads, those messages, and even surprises around what hasn't been revealed yet? Because there will be more surprises and shocks coming through in 2025. And if we can go higher to trust that everything is unfolding as it needs to, we can work with these frequencies from a more empowered space. And so as we move through that annual conjunction with the Galactic Center, it really provides us with an intensity around the role of belief systems on the human path, how our planet is a part of this connection to the Galactic Center, and how we are being guided to go above and beyond the programming we've been surrounded by, to stay open to what needs to unravel, which is what Neptune and Pisces does, what needs to be removed, and to allow things to reveal themselves with greater detachment, especially at a personal level. Meaning this Neptune and Pisces is a magician that hasn't revealed how the trick is done or what all the secrets are just yet. There is mystery that's cloaked. There is a cloaking of the full story, of more important information, and it's all being kept hidden, but not for long. So if we can stay open to the fact that we don't have all the information or the full story yet, but that our souls are beautifully guiding us forward, we can stay in a trusting place that our mental bodies might fight, our egos might not always like, but this is part of being on this bigger soul journey on the planet at this time. So we are moving into more territory here where revelations are going to happen, information's going to come forward, secrets are revealed, and what is going to also transpire includes some pivotal breakthroughs that continue to take us beyond the programming, beyond the assumptions or messages that we've been surrounded by. So keep in mind that when we go higher and remember that we're on this wild, amazing soul journey on this planet, we can travel with greater detachment. We can allow situations to come and go and ebb and flow and understand that it's all part of an experience. And that is very much a Sagittarius word, is let's have experiences. Let's just go try it. Let's see what unfolds. Let's stay open to the outcomes and the developments, knowing that things can unfold in a million different ways and be positive in a million different ways, that we can grow and expand in so many different directions that benefit us. But if we're in a limited perception, we're going to miss out on perhaps what that higher consciousness is trying to bring in. And so that would be another way to work with the energies of December, is to stay open to the bigger experience of it all, in all the ways that life can change and shift and move, and it all can be good. It all can bring us new gifts, new understandings, and new insights, as long as our consciousness is up at that level of understanding. And in fact, it reminds me of a story that I'm going to offer here at the end of today's podcast. But let's get back here to the rest of the astrology of December, which includes our second Saturn-Jupiter square of 2024. This is exact December 24th, with Saturn in Pisces at 14 degrees and Jupiter retrograde in Gemini at 14 degrees. The first square between Saturn and Jupiter happened in August when they were both at 17 degrees. That occurred August 19th and 20th. This is the second square that is pushing us to grow. That's part of what Jupiter is always about. And Saturn brings in the boundaries, the restrictions and limitations. And the square aspect is where we feel that challenge between the two intentions. And so with this energy showing up here and gaining strength the end of December, we can have a sense of where you want to go. You could see it. You could logically understand it. You could feel like you're grasping the plan. You've got the idea and the notion. It's coming together. And then the square from Saturn and Pisces is a standstill, and it removes those best laid plans. It's asking you to remain flexible, but to stay in your intention, because this push-pull in the square dynamic between Saturn and Jupiter means that we're still working things out. There's this dance going on between the desire to be better and to learn and grow versus the part of you that doesn't want to shift so fast, isn't ready to turn the page, doesn't want to complete something. And so we're stuck between a part of ourselves that wants the higher consciousness and the new version, and then we have a lot of questions and uncertainty. And maybe I don't want that so much. Maybe I'm not that committed. Maybe it isn't really what I think it's going to be. And this dynamic, this square between Jupiter retrograde in Gemini and Saturn in Pisces, is bringing us into battle between the logical, rational mind of Gemini and the emotional, spiritual essence of Pisces. It's a dance between the mind and the spirit, but it's very unsettled. And this actually doesn't fully settle itself until November 2025. Yes, almost a year from now is when Saturn and Jupiter are going to be in a flowing trine, when they're both in water signs. But until then, there are parts of ourselves that we're learning to trust. You're learning to trust more of your intuition without letting the mind diminish it, run over it, challenge it. You're learning to integrate more of what your soul is directing you to do, even though the mind is saying, I'm not sure I want that. I don't think I can follow through with that. I'd rather be distracted, which is something that Jupiter and Gemini is really good at. I'll just deal with this later or never, because I'd rather focus on this exciting thing over here that's more immediate, that's in my space, and that feels interesting and stimulating in the present moment right now. So we're going to be feeling this tension. And in your chart, you could look at where you have 14 degrees of Pisces and 14 degrees of Gemini, as this is where you are revisiting this dynamic that started in August. And it's coming back around for you to check in on how much have you integrated around trusting your spiritual navigation system. How much have you leveled up in your intuitive abilities and listening to those softer messages that might not be as interesting as the fast-moving Gemini energies, but Saturn in Pisces has a lot of weight to it, as well as seriousness. And so the end of December can bring in more opportunities for you to listen to yourself and listen to those quieter messages that are giving you information for a reason, even if that seems confusing right away, Saturn is very intentional around what you're meant to sit with. Now, also at the end of December, on December 29th, we have Chiron stationing direct at 19 degrees of Aries exactly. And so Chiron is moving slowly at 19 degrees at Aries throughout December and stays at 19 degrees of Aries into the middle of February. So this is important because not only is this a slow moving Chiron, but it's conjunct the Aries solar eclipse back on April 8th. So here we have a year-in check-in point on what was started or what came up to your attention, what healing theme was initiated for you in April, and where are you at with it now at the end of December, the end of the year. And this could be an acknowledgement of what you have trusted in yourself, the new parts of yourself you have met, you have seen come to the surface that perhaps are softer, quieter, more vulnerable. Those are themes that Chiron wants us to honor in ourselves. Chiron in Aries is bringing forth more of our true self that we pushed away or we didn't feel would be acceptable. So we are leaning into more self-acceptance and self-love through compassion. We're also being gentle with ourselves around these parts of our gifts, our self-expressions, and our needs that maybe we didn't feel were acceptable to share. Chiron in Aries also brings up where the universe is directing you to stand on your own and be more independent, to have more courage in trusting what is best for you, what you want, and to feel that strengthen. So the end of December brings these things up as Chiron stations direct on December 29th at 19 degrees of Aries. And keep in mind that I will be talking about these energies more in every Wednesday show. So this is just an overview to give you a heads up on the main energies of December, but we talk about them every Wednesday as well. And then the month of December ends with a Capricorn new moon at 9 degrees. And this Capricorn new moon is a great time to settle in to how far you've come this year, to recognize what you've completed, what you've accomplished, where the rewards are, what you've had to work through and face. And this new moon supports you in establishing what you want to move towards in the year ahead. So that would be a great day actually to either establish your New Year's intentions or to look at what you want to make for yourself as we move into 2025. And as with every new moon and full moon, I will have a video for you on YouTube going through the full chart and discussing the energies more in depth. Considering these energies of December, it is a month that can gift you with higher understanding of your soul's path now. This can be a month that raises you up into a broader sense of what's possible for you based on how far you've come, all the intense energies of 2024. And it gives you the option here of consciously choosing what is my best and highest path now? What is in alignment with my soul's growth that maybe I'm ready to see in a whole new light and from a whole new angle? Part of December is in the elevation of our mindset to rise above where we have previously sunk into previous habits or previous programming, to go higher and to understand that this is a lifetime where I'm connecting to my soul and my consciousness like never before. And what would it mean to actively live from that space on a more regular basis? We go into the higher consciousness, which takes us out of polarity, duality, ongoing separation narratives. It takes us into places where we can understand that not only am I on my soul's journey here, but so is everyone else on the planet. And I don't have to go into what divides us or what separates us. In fact, people who are in those narratives are showing us the old way. They're showing us where we've been. People who are overly focused on us versus them, fighting each other, how we're different, who's better, who's more evolved. All of that is separation consciousness that isn't where we're going. It's where we've been. We don't have to engage in 17th century Salem witch hunts. We don't have to engage in political persecution. We don't have to go into conversations that are essentially rooted in proving who's better, who's right, who's wrong. All of that is the old way. That's the old way, and the human evolutionary journey is meant to go onwards and upwards. We're meant to move into new territory of broader understanding that every person is here on their soul's journey, doing what's best for them. And who are we to question it or to think that we would know better? We're moving into a higher terrain of acceptance and detachment, that you have full control over what is best for you. And when you focus on unity consciousness, when you focus on unity consciousness through the 5D lens, you have greater acceptance and detachment towards what is, knowing that the universe always sees solutions, always has beautiful, positive developments and benefits that come from every direction. From every which way, there are beautiful ways that things can unfold, that energies can manifest, and that great developments can happen. And when you are living in that energy, you don't get pulled into the lower vibe discussions, conversations, or duality that takes you away from your deeper soul's knowingness. And so even though there will be topics that are amplified on the planet, especially in December and January, you have a choice to make around how you're going to rise up and be in your energy from a more empowered place that demonstrates your soul growth, that demonstrates your soul wisdom, that allows you to be in a more empowered place with greater love, kindness, and acceptance for each other. Let's bring those ingredients into the conversation, and let's allow that to be more of what we practice from a detached place. So perhaps you have heard the parable of the Chinese farmer, where there was a Chinese farmer who had a lot of land to take care of. And one day, his horse, who tilled the land, who was an important worker on the land, that horse ran away. And all the neighbors came to the farmer and said, "Oh no, what a terrible development. This is awful. It's so unfortunate. What are you going to do?" And the farmer said, "Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll see what happens next." The next day, the horse that ran away returned, bringing 6 wild horses with him. So now the farmer had a total of 7 horses that he could use to take care of his land. And the neighbors returned and rejoiced and said, "Isn't this lucky? What a blessing. Wow. Now you have 7 horses, 7 workers. You're going to be so prosperous on your land." The farmer said, "Maybe yes, maybe no." The next day, the farmer's son was riding one of the horses and fell off. And as he fell to the ground, he broke his leg. And the neighbors came around and said, "Oh no, this is horrible. This is awful. He'll never be able to walk. What will you do? You've just lost another worker." And the farmer said, "Maybe yes, maybe no." Then a few days later, word spread that the army was recruiting soldiers to go to war. And a general from the army came to the farmer's land, came to the house, knocked on the door to see if he had any soldiers for the army. And because his son had a broken leg, he wasn't able to join the army or go into battle. He wasn't able to be on the front lines against an overwhelming oppositional force. So his son was spared and did not have to go off to war. And when the neighbors heard of this, they said, "What a blessing! You're so lucky. Look at what has happened in your favor." And the farmer replied, as he always did, "Maybe yes, maybe no." And so what this story highlights is how life is a series of ongoing events. And we don't always know how they're going to play out. We don't know what good is to come or what setbacks may arrive. But what we know is that if we can suspend judgment, if we can be in a more detached place, grounded in the wisdom of change, that all of life is designed to change and there's good and bad in everything, instead of declaring something's horrible, something's awful, or something's the best blessing, to detach and see it as an ongoing journey of energies. We're tapping into our soul's wisdom that there are good things all around us and there are things to deal with that can be difficult and hard at the same time. We can be too quick to label something or to say, this is the best, this is the worst, this is good, this is bad, when we don't know what's going to happen next or what's going to play out. But when you've lived enough life and when you've gathered wisdom along the way, you're able to detach and say, yes, this is good for now, but let's see what happens next. Or yes, this feels difficult right now, but surely there is something beneficial to come from it, because that's how the universe continues to unfold. That's how the universe continues to move us forward. So focus on what you have control over. Focus on what you can do that's good for your energy and your mind. Focus on what lifts you up, as well as what grounds you into the present moment. Focus on what you can control instead of putting too much time, energy, or attention into matters that you can't control. Focus on the fact that humanity is in an ascending cycle of consciousness, and we're not meant to go back into the old ways of being. So catch yourself if you find yourself making that U-turn back into a previous version of yourself, or handling a situation or a conversation as an older version of yourself would have handled it. Require yourself to grow. Pluto is done in Capricorn. We are done with a version of ourselves that we have fully mastered. We're at a new place of initiating into greater wisdom and self-awareness. Stand strong in that. Push yourself into a higher place of your own growth, and do so with humility and acknowledgement that we're all growing, we're all learning, we're all doing the best we can. And when you can see others through that same lens, that's when you're inviting in greater kindness, acceptance, compassion. And those are all keys of unity consciousness and 5D awareness. It's up to us to bring those energies into the spaces that perhaps bring out strong reactions, strong wounds, a lot of density. It's up to us to bring in those new ingredients to the old and to not be pulled into places, conversations, topics, or approaches that we're outgrowing. And we know it and we feel it. The evolved human approaches the difficulties of the human experience from a new perspective. And that's what we're moving into in December and in 2025 and beyond. We are in it now, whether you consider yourself at the front door or whether you feel like you have fully moved into this new space and you're getting settled into it. This is a time to go higher and to actively demonstrate these more evolved energies in yourself, for yourself, and for the benefit of everyone around you. So keep that in mind when you go to holiday gatherings, family events, hanging out with friends, colleagues, acquaintances. It can be really easy to be pulled back into previous versions of ourselves, but this is a time to require more and to be in our heart spaces because we have more in common than not. You've heard that a million times, I'm sure. And what can happen is that because our peace-loving higher souls know that we are capable of more, we can co-create at a higher level an event or experience that brings us together, that reminds us of our similarities, if we aren't consciously doing that now. And so we have the opportunity here to rise above duality, separation, divisiveness, and see that everyone is a soul on their soul journey, making their choices, doing what they need to do for whatever reason that's probably none of your business, that doesn't matter to your life path, that doesn't concern you, but is absolutely perfect for them. And if you can have that level of wise detachment that takes you higher, you're also inviting others to do the same. And that would be one of the most powerful ways to work with the energy of December, to go higher, open up your heart space, live from the 5D consciousness of connection, unity, and compassion. And that is how we continue to change the world and move into living more of these new earth frequencies. And stay in your power. Don't engage with people who pull you into anything lower, lesser, mean, hateful, accusatory, righteous. You get the gist. We don't do that anymore. We're better than that. We're better than that. This is the new bar. This is the new standard. And don't compromise your growth. Don't compromise what is true for you and what you know at a soul level is expanding you. And all of this is going to be even more important in the second half of this decade. As we move into 2025, we're going to have some very important world events that will require us to be in these higher frequencies and to embody these energies. So this is important to ground in and connect with on a regular basis so that we can be connecting to our empowered sense of self effortlessly and more regularly. And you're going to want to know where these new starts are happening for you, because the energy really picks up and it gets moving, and you want a heads up on where those changes are going to happen. And so you want to be sure to note in your chart where the changes are happening, because there's many changes. There's many of them. So be sure to check out my 2025 Soul Growth Astrology program that shows you in your chart what is happening, what's beginning, where the connections are being made, where you need to be aware of the shifts in energies and expressions, and what to make the most of as well. Because 2025 not only brings in some big, powerful beginnings here, but we're still going to be moving through and working away what is fading out on the planet. We have these Renaissance energies coming in strongly, new soul assignments, big things shifting. We also have people who are going to be moving away from significant chapters in their lives. They're complete with a certain profession or experience. They're done with something perhaps you've done your whole life and you're realizing, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm ready for what's new and different. So be sure to check out this program I've created for you, where you're going to see how the energies are working with you and showing up for you through the next 12 months. I will put the link below the podcast here for you to check that out and to dive in. It also discusses what you need to know about the first quarter of 2025. Lots of astrology happening in 2025. So as always, thank you so much for joining me today. I'll be back with another podcast episode every Monday and Wednesday. I look forward to continuing to discuss these energies with you and wishing you a beautiful journey through December as we close out yet another big year here on planet Earth. Take good care, and I'll see you back here soon.